Helping you make the most of your retirement. This is the Retirement Years Podcast. Here are your hosts, Mary Ellen French and Dave Wing.
Hi there, I'm Mary Ellen.
And I'm Dave. And we know it's been a minute between season 3 and season 4, and we'll talk a bit about that. But we are absolutely thrilled to be back.
We are.
And I'm equally thrilled, I think, about the lineup. We'll talk about that a little later on. But the lineup of guests this season is pretty interesting. And while they fit into what we like to do as a concept per season, they're all very different.
Oh,
in their
yes.
own way. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they are. Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But really, the theme, if you will, for this season is around transitions. And both Dave and I have had a lot of transitions since the end of season 3.
I would agree with that. And it's funny when you mention transitions, because in some cases, and I'm just as guilty as, or more so than some, in that you're pretty comfortable without them happening.
Yeah.
But then you do come to the realization that, well, without them, things would get pretty boring. And they are natural. And transitions are going to occur whether you're stubborn or not.
Yes.
And to all my stubborn people out there, you can take my word for that. In the interim, I know I've been enjoying retirement life. I set my own schedule and do what I'd like to do. Been able to get to some sporting events, like some NHL games, a couple. Because if you live in the Greater Toronto area, attending one locally is, well, you may have to take out a mortgage, but they're very expensive tickets. And the Blue Jays, more reasonable tickets. Saw a few Jays games, some musical theater, that sort of thing, going out and enjoying evenings and taking some of my own advice, trying to get back to catching up on reading. I wish I'd have done more, and now I can. And the latest autobiography, just about to finish it. I almost couldn't pull myself away to be here. Maybe that's why I was a little late, but Geddy Lee of Rush has his own autobiography out, My Effing Life. And it is a fascinating read about a band that was very unique and took their own path. And the result, obviously, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band, and makes Canada proud. That we Rush is from actually from the GTA area here near Toronto.
Yeah.
And I've been dealing with a few health issues and nothing too serious at this point.
Yeah.
And I feel very lucky to live where I do, where I have access to doctors of all sorts of specialty, and they're very supportive. But nothing to worry about at this point, but dealing with those as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we did provide a small snippet of what we'd been up to in the fall of 2024, because at that point we really did have the best of intentions.
We did.
Of pulling season 4 together and having it out before the end of the year, and that didn't happen. I headed off to the Dominican Republic with a friend and one of my sisters and her husband in November. And while we were there for a couple of weeks, we got word that my mom's health had taken a turn for the worse. And so when we got back, I moved in with my mom, and I got to be with her for the last 2 weeks of her life. And it was a very amazing experience for me. I think I had mentioned in our in-between season clip that I had started a program in August. It's a 2-year program called the Team Management and Leadership Program, and it focuses on communication skills, primarily on listening, and I really had the opportunity in those 2 weeks with Mom to bring those listening skills to bear. And she told me all kinds of stories about her childhood and about being a young woman and about meeting Dad, and stories that I'd never heard before. And so it was such a wonderful, wonderful experience to laugh with her and to cry with her, and really to, there was nothing left unsaid. I got to acknowledge the heck out of her for all the contributions that she's made in my life and the life of our family. And I was still very sad, don't get me wrong, but there's something very special about getting to spend time with a loved one and supporting them through that final transition. And so yeah, so we've been as a family, dealing with that and dealing with the aftermath. We had a celebration of life for mom in January, and my sisters and I try to get back to the family farm once a month, so that we can spend time with our brother and his wife. And yeah, it's been very, very full of transitions this time for me. And yeah, so that's kind of what we've been up to. And as Dave said, just living life in retirement and just living life like everyone else.
Well, and there seems to be almost no end of opportunity, especially in retired life, to support children if you have them.
Mhm.
They'll fill that void very quickly for you if you give them that chance. But just what you described, though, I was thinking as you were saying that, that is a gift
Yeah.
that you got because of the fragile nature of life. And of course, we don't know. We don't know
No.
when our number's up,
Yeah,
and to have that opportunity, uh, you'll cherish that forever,
I
and,
will.
and be more at peace,
Hmm.
right? Because you had that opportunity. It's when you get a call that it's harder because then you start thinking, what didn't I say, and all
Right.
of those things. And I'm thrilled to hear that you had that opportunity to
Yeah.
to say what you had to say, and likely more. And it made me think back to our season one, episode 9, when we
Mm.
were talking about people leaving their legacy. And
Hmm.
sometimes that you think that means it was, money, a building, whatever it is, but often it's the relationships like you just described, and how a parent helped shape their children, and
Yeah,
that's a legacy that's priceless, really.
it is.
And then once it gets to the point where you were in a position where you had one or both parents, and then you find yourself without one. And that is a really big transition that no matter how old you are, it's still a tough one to do.
Yeah, it is, Dave, because you know, we, I forget which sibling said it first, but one of them said, I don't know, within 48 hours maybe of mom's passing, like we're orphans now.
Mhm.
And and I think that some listeners might be going, well, okay, but you're adults. And yeah, sure, we're adults, but it doesn't change the fact that we are without parents, and that is really the definition of an orphan, is someone who has no no parents left in the world. And the relationship was such that, like, I know for one of my sisters, for example, she said that mom was the person that she would think of first and call first when, she had something exciting to share from her
Yeah.
personal life, or something exciting to share from, the family's life. And she realized that, you know, mom's not there to pick up the phone and call
Yeah.
and share those things with, because mom was so proud of her family and their accomplishments, no matter how small. And yeah, so there's just different impacts on different ones. My brother shared the house, right? Him and his wife live in the front, and my mom lived in the addition at the back. And so there's certainly a different impact for him
Mhm.
than there is for those of us who didn't live with her and see her every day. And we've even had to change our language, right? Because the space in which mom lived was her space. And so, we now refer to it as the addition. And there's no disrespect in that. It's just that in the days following her death, we needed to recreate that space into its new future.
Right.
And so it has really become a gathering place. It's where my sisters and I gather when we come, and my sister-in-law and my brother join us out there and in that space. And sometimes we go in and enjoy meals with them in their space in the main house. And yeah, it's really lovely to see what we're turning it into. Um Oh, and how could I forget this? I was going to say the next generation has started because my my nephew and his wife had a baby in March. And so, and that was really special because mom's birthday would have been in March. And so we now have we still have a reason to eat cake as one family member. And that's very important in my family. So, but yeah, like when they come to visit, they'll have a space where they can stay if they choose to with the baby, and it's just going to be such an incredible opportunity for future family gatherings that none of us had really given any thought to, right, while
Yeah.
mom was alive. And so yeah, just lots of impacts, and not all sad ones for
Right.
sure. um and I do find myself wanting to pick up the phone and call her. And so, I just have a conversation with her spirit whenever I feel like it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
This is something we've never done on the podcast before. When we had our conversation in this episode about how it feels for children of any age, right up to adulthood, to suddenly find themselves without either parent, Mary Ellen had a family Zoom meeting with her siblings, and the family has courageously allowed us to listen in on a portion of that discussion on this topic.
I know that we all had unique relationship with mom. And so after she passed, I think there was a uniqueness to the impact on each of us in terms of the things that maybe we missed and didn't realize we were going to miss, or things that we used to do that, when we went to do them, it just didn't matter as much anymore. And there were reactions and impacts that we discovered that we did have in common. And so, for example, for me, mom was the source of she was the source of wisdom if I had a question about something, related to, I don't know, let's say preserving jams or something like that, or family lore, right? Mom was the person that I knew that she would have the answer to that, or if she didn't, she'd be really good at making one up, or or whatever. So that was something that I found, right? Somebody asked me a question and I said, "Oh, who would have known the answer to that? My mom." So that was an example of, for me, an impact that I felt that kind of snuck up on me. I wasn't expecting it.
I
Who
have
else would
one
like
that's
that?
kind of similar in the sense that for me, mom was the source of all family information.
Mm,
So when I found out that some of Will's kids had been home for their spring break, I realized, oh, I normally would have like tried to pop home and say hello, but I didn't even think about it because normally mom would have just let me know, oh, so and so's going home or this is happening. You may want to be here for this. So I realized, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to figure out how to stay in the loop.
right.
I've had to keep track of when my next euchre is. Not good.
No, she would have tracked that for you.
May 2nd, because Cindy's tracking it now.
That's right.
Yeah.
Not that I can be there to help you necessarily, but I'll track it for you.
Let me know a couple days in advance.
For sure, for sure.
Thank you.
For me, what I think I miss most is that I knew that if I just had time in my day, the person I could call would be her. We could just shoot the breeze. And so there have been times where I'm like, oh, I just want to sit and chat with somebody. Who can I call? And normally it would have been mom. And so I miss that. She never seemed too busy to take my phone call.
Yeah.
But there are other people that I think, oh, they're probably too busy. I don't want to bother them. But mom always welcomed a phone call, which is nice.
What about you, Will?
Other than the euchre?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I think a couple things, and maybe your question for this answer will come later, but on Cindy's note, there's no doubt that, if I was home before 4 o'clock, it was mom that was home, right?
Right.
Sort of thing. So it was her I saw. But some of the things I've reflected on with mom passing now and stuff is not so much the past 2, 3, 4 years or whatever so much, but the mom when she was mom before she was grandma necessarily. And you realize, what is a person's impact on your life 10 years after, for example. So
Mm,
here we are with mom, 10 weeks after or whatever it is. But what do I remember about mom as mom? And sure, there's the things like keeping track of the euchre and stuff like that. But I think what I try to take away from it for my own self, and I'll reflect on as a grandparent here before too long as a grandparent, but I remember mom being the one who would play catch with me, for example, and do the sports stuff. And they say this about educators, it's not what they taught you, but maybe more so how they made you feel and stuff. And for all the things that mom had to do that were, as we would have coined them 30 years ago as domestic or whatever, she would often take time to either play catch or twirl the skipping rope for us or whatever, and tolerate me throwing the ball against the side of the house and stuff like that. And sure, there's the maybe a couple little silly things like my sister not behaving and us getting dragged off to the bathroom or something like that. But there's very little, those are the impacts that parents have on us,
yeah.
or that certainly mom has had on me, and
Mm,
you hope for yourself as a parent that you can have those impacts in some way, shape, or form.
mhm.
And now I will begin to reflect. I wonder what impact opportunities I have as a grandparent, and how was my mom as a grandparent, and what do I want to copy as that, right? Like you reflect on what do you want to copy as a parent, and approach that next stage sort of thing, and yeah, so I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. That reminds me of the fact that, mom instilled in me the love of baseball, right? She's
Yeah,
the one who
yeah,
took me to Montreal Expos games in Montreal, and we'd get the program and she'd track the stats and show me how to track the stats. And I just loved those experiences. And I still love watching baseball today. And I mean, she was an avid Jays fan, of course, but when
yeah.
the Expos were in Montreal, she and I went a couple of times at least. And I look back on it and I think I don't know, I might have been in maybe high school, late high school, and I think, God, you guys were really young when she did that. So to pull her away from those responsibilities that she had, William, that you referred to, and to spend time, an entire day or day and evening, with me, really made me feel special and instilled that love of baseball in me. And the other memories that I have of mom, the impact is the love of theater, live theater. And I know
Mhm.
that all of us enjoyed attending different performances with her. She loved a good musical. And again, I that's something that I do to this day because of the opportunities that she gave me as a young person and as a young adult to see those.
I was with friends last week, and they were watching the home opener for the Jays, and so I had a special memory as well, not of going to a game, but mom in that book with statistics in it. Like she just loved charting all of that, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about, the Retirement Years podcast, and the intention behind it is to start the conversations now about retirement and preparing for it. And so if there's anything I wanted to share with people about preparing for saying goodbye to your second parent, given all of the memories of how like central she was to our family as the matriarch, and how we organized ourselves around her for like quite a bit of organization around her. So, as the only sibling that's single without children, I didn't anticipate that when there's no matriarch or patriarch and no centralizing force, then each one of you becomes a centralizing force in your own family systems. And I feel super untethered. I'm like I don't have to be anywhere at Easter, and I could be everywhere. Whereas for the last 47 years, it was a given that I would make my way to the farm, and so would most of all of us, and that's where we would gather. And so I kind of feel like really untethered. in a liberating and a very unknown way. Like it's a little daunting and it's a little exciting.
We've all touched on it, but Cindy certainly with regards to her day to day and the picking up of the phone sort of thing. But I guess so far as the void, the day to day void of losing your mom and or your second parent. But for me, mom was pretty close by, and I think that for any of your listeners who has a parent close by, it probably changes their lives in a way that's a little bit different than people whose parents are further away, for
Mm-hmm.
example.
Mm-hmm.
Every day, having lived with mom for the last year or so, every day I'm in the space that all of us helped create for mom.
Yeah.
So there isn't, a moment that is within my power to control my emotions, but there isn't a day that doesn't go by when I don't continue to think of mom, say hi to mom, or whatever sort of thing. And who
Yeah.
knows how long that lasts? Again, it's a personal, and it's not a good or bad, and it's
Mhm.
not whatever sort of thing. It's for each person to figure out. The same as we think of her when it's opening day or whatever sort of thing. But yeah, I think that it's important for us to all understand how all of us have unique opportunities to receive the life after somebody's life has passed away, and that it's all beautiful.
Well, I have to say, our job, mom made our job with her passing so much easier because she had gone through a lot with dad's passing.
Yeah.
That she had a notebook and directive. Like, we were super fortunate in the fact that she was really well organized,
She was.
I think.
Yeah. I think that we were very blessed as a family to be able to create a space around mom so that she could spend her final days at home as she wanted, cared for, loved, and that's where she got to pass. She didn't want to be in a hospital. She didn't want to be in a hospice. She wanted to die at home and with dignity, and that's what she got to do.
Well, and one of the things the transition can be is a bit intimidating or scary.
Mm-hmm.
I found a quote from Emily Dickinson who said, "Hold dear to your parents, for it's a scary and confusing world without them."
Mm-hmm.
Something that some people have never considered because they've always had parents there. And talk about time flies. I literally had to go, well, I was being a little lazy because I was at the computer and I could have went and dug out through some files, but I was convincing myself of the year that my mom and dad passed, and
Right.
I had to look it up. Like I looked at the funeral home where they were both had their funerals, and it was 2007, and that just blew my mind. And as you'll recall, they passed away 5 days apart,
Yeah.
and that's a 1-2 punch. And that's why my experience with it is maybe a little more frightening because I just felt the earth shift. Like suddenly, wait a minute, if they're not there, then who's the patriarch? Who's the matriarch? What's going on here? And
Mm-hmm.
you had to become the adult pretty quick.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of time. It was remind me of when Dad taught me to swim with that very tried and true method of throwing you in the deep end.
Yep.
In my case, the lake, not a pool. But it was sort of like, wow, like
Yeah.
I know I'm going to miss them, but the first thought that kind of came to mind was now I will be in the future, maybe an influence or someone, that's got to be the voice of reason, which is frightening for my family. But yeah, suddenly there's been a leadership role maybe laid at your feet, and
Mm.
that's a big transition in
Mhm.
line with our season, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. I don't recall my mom's exact words to me in those last 2 weeks, but at one point she did say to me something along the lines of, "When I'm gone, it's your responsibility to look after them all."
Yeah.
And I took that with the love in which it was given. I didn't feel it as a weight on me at all. I just, I accepted it and sort of stepped into um, the possibility of being the family matriarch as the oldest child in the family and also the oldest grandchild
Right.
on my dad's side of the family, 14 grandchildren. And yeah, like I'm really enjoying exploring who I get to be in that role as some kind of a matriarch or leader in the family. So yeah, it's been interesting. It's really interesting. Like you said, you you have this role that you may not have given much thought to,
Yeah.
and here we are. Yeah.
And no matter what age, I think you're going to have that thought about, am I ready
Yeah.
for this? Well, that's
Yeah.
really not a very relevant question because
No.
if things have changed, then you are maybe next in line. And I've now, like, given that it was 2007, my memories of mom and dad are far outweighed by the happy moments or the silly moments, and I know my family's had it up to here, like, oh, not another story about sitting on the liar's bench or out in front of the store, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
But it'll be just something that occurs to me, and I tell it, and I can usually tell by how quickly they glass over how many times I've told it, but they tend to just humor me
Yeah,
and
that's
allow
good.
me to go on. But that's more what it is now, is just
Yeah.
remembering that and knowing that they did their best to shape me. And I know I've told you this, where if I see a situation where I ought to step in and help, it's my mom's voice that I hear scolding me. I haven't even done anything yet. And she'll say, well, certainly you're not going to stand there and let A, B, or C happen without helping.
Right.
And so I heave and sigh and go over and help. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I guess I got to instill some guilt into my kids. I think I'm behind schedule.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Hopefully they're not listening to this or they're going to see what you're up to. So we're excited to share the conversations with our guests this season as we talk about transitions. And the first guest that we're going to talk with and share with all of you, her name is Debbie Stanley, and she founded ETP Canada, which offers executor services to individuals who might want to assign that role to someone other than a friend or a family member.
And she'll tell us too about why sometimes that's in your particular situation may be the best thing to do. Because when you're named or you volunteer to be an executor, it's likely your first and often your last time to do it. And it's a big, big responsibility.
So in addition to speaking with Debbie, we're also going to be speaking this season with a retirement coach, an author, a brewmaster,
Mhm.
a hypnotherapist, a professional who's going to help you right size your home, a guest who has taken the leap to move to Spain, and the executive director at a food bank that has a caring and unique approach to helping those with food insecurity. So lots of exciting guests coming up in this season.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to many of these guests because I know it's going to be entertaining and informative, which we always try to be, and hopefully we can do that again this season. So until next time, I'm Dave.
And I'm Mary Ellen. Be well.
You've been listening to the Retirement Years Podcast. Original music by Theodora Draper. Web design by Gavin Hinton. Social media marketing and management provided by Madison Sloan. Find her at MSS Mad Media.